Welcome to Boys Under the Hood. Pat Kelly, joined by James Stephenson and our special guest Al, who I just said to him 5 minutes ago. I've known Al for 15 years now ish, and I'm like, "What's your last name?"
Joyella.
Joyella. Al Joyella. He owns G&A Import Automotive Repair in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. One of our neighbors at the radio station, and can't say enough about you because first of all, I see how busy you guys are over there, but anytime we have like a small issue with one of our vehicles, you guys are always to the rescue. Whether it's someone's got a flat, I think you took my license plate off for me once because I couldn't get the damn bolt off. But you always go out of your way to help us out, and that's awesome.
Nice.
So appreciate you joining us
Thank
today. How's things, man?
Good. How's things with you?
Oh God, it's Dallas Cowboys took a shellacking on Sunday, and it was humiliating for me and also America because they are America's team. No, and don't shake your head if you're watching this. 42-10. I mean, there's not a whole lot of good to take from that, but
the Patriots were probably celebrating. Well, to get some vindication.
Well, somebody got their asses kicked worse than we did, so I guess that worked out well for us, I guess. But otherwise, it's great. Things are good, man. Radio station's going good. Lotus Media's going good, and we're getting some really good questions and responses to the podcast, which I love. So that's why
we're getting a lot of traffic and a lot of really good questions, and a lot of inquiries from some really good shops in the area and then out of the area. And so obviously that's what our goal is obviously to really help auto repair shops and help them grow in a less stressed environment, more sustainable environment, and obviously help them at the end of the day by being less stressed, more profitable, all of those things. And I think that we're making our mark.
And I think part of that too is working on the reputation of auto shops in general, right?
Yeah.
I had a coworker just this week had an awful experience at a dealership, and it was just bad mouth. Oh, mechanics, you can't trust them. You can't. And I'm like, well, like anything, there's always that guy who will hose you, but a good mechanic is gold.
Yeah. Mechanics, accountants, lawyers, all you got to find good ones.
It's true.
They're a necessary evil.
It's true.
Yeah.
So James Stephenson owns Precision Auto in West Springfield. It's the best shop around. Voted 9 years in a row the best shop by your customers. And you also are in business now for 18 years. You celebrated a birthday last week, which is pretty huge.
Yeah, Precision Auto's been around for 18 years now, and then years ago I didn't know how to run my shop. I was just a good technician, so I got into to being a business coach. I hired a coaching company, and then from there I eventually became a coach, and then so now I buy shops, I help shops, and kind of do that throughout the Northeast, and then kind of just along the whole 91 corridor or 95 corridor all the way down to Florida. So we wanted to bring you on today and kind of talk to you about how you got your start and where you came from, and learn a little bit more about you.
So my start, I went through the Ford Asset Program at SDCC when they had the Ford Asset Program. That's where I started automotive. My father's been working on cars all his life. Used to work for Mercedes-Benz in West Springfield, Blue Bar Imports, till they shut down. Did 2 years down at Ford of Westfield, which is no longer there.
What's that, a batting cage or something now?
Yeah, I think so, but they moved from where Applebee's used to be, then they went up the road, and then from there I was gone. I ended up enlisting in the military for 6 years.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Blue Bar Imports closed. My father, back and forth, didn't know what to do, so we talked him into opening up his own shop. Just like he's a good tech, but just doing that stuff. So I got out of the military, came back, went back to night school, would work during the day, back to night school for automotive to get recert. And then we've been there since 2005.
It's a great shop too, and so even us at Precision Auto, we have sublet quite a few things out to you guys through the years, just different types of reprograms and things that maybe we just couldn't figure out, and I think that's something that a lot of shops, it's weird because you have all of these different industries, all of these trade-based industries, right? And so everybody is so concerned about, like, the biggest problem that shops and all these trades seem to have is, like, they can't find people.
Yep.
Right? Would you agree? You know, everybody that you talk to, any shop owner, I need people. I need people to work for me, right? They need people in general, right? They need vendors, they need clients, they need techs, but for the most part, they need techs. And so, you know, like I own a construction company. It is totally normal at the construction company to bring in drywallers from another company, or to bring in an electrician that has his own company, or to bring in painters from another company. Maybe you don't have these people in-house, but it's easy for you to have all of these subs. And in the auto repair industry, people don't like to do that. It's like, it's so frowned upon, you know, and so like even for us to sit here, a lot of shops, they just won't want to talk to the guy next to them. You know, I think that you guys have a tremendous shop. We swim in the same pool, but I don't see us as competitors. You know, if you guys need something, then, you know, we're there, and we've needed things, and you guys have been there. And I think that, like, it's just crazy that a lot of these shops are just so protective of that customer, but you could easily expand by utilizing somebody else's talents that they're really good at, right?
Is that what it is? Like, what causes that friction? Is it just like, oh, screw the other guys, they don't know what the hell they're doing, we're better than they are? Or is it just you want to be protective of your clients?
I mean, I've always been a provider of networking. I mean, that's the only way to, you know, flourish. I mean, not every shop can be, you can't have, like, we have a niche, like we work on imports. I don't have computers for Fords or Chevys or anything, so I have to outsource that stuff. A lot of shops just don't like it. I don't know. It's like, I think it's just that old school mentality. I built this, I don't want anybody to come in, type of thing. But without networking today, it's kind of tough.
And maybe a little bit of that as well is, you know, we don't want our customers to think that we can't do this job ourselves, kind of thing. And that same mentality has kind of happened in the radio too. It used to be a very antagonistic thing. Like, you know, if you saw another radio station at a remote somewhere, you'd stay away from them. Yeah, I mean, I want nothing to do with those clowns. They got no talent. But now it's like we know everybody. And the networking,
Anchorman, when they get to the street fight.
Just like that. But interestingly, you know, once you start opening up that level of communication with the others, you benefit from it. Like you get, you know, you get maybe new clients, you get references from it. And like you said, you guys are swimming in the same pool, and we're all in the same pool on the media side as well. And that thing, I feel like that's kind of come around over the past 10 to 20 years, because it didn't used to be that way.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, you know, like you said, you know, it's very important to collect people. We've said it on this show many times, right? You're collecting, as a business owner, you're collecting relationships, you know, and I think that it's very important to sometimes maybe shed bad ones too, you know, things that are not beneficial to you, things that take your energy, things that take your headspace away from you, and things that make you lose your focus. It's very important. Maybe, you know, you don't have to definitively shed those relationships and tell people to eat shit or whatever, but you know, sometimes it's good to take that negativity away, because I feel like we're all like we're like a battery, you know, and you have like 100% energy at the beginning of the day. And so where are we going to use that 100%? Are we going to use that to move forward? Or are we going to use that to like deal with bad relationships, right? Bad vendors, bad customers, sometimes bad employees, outside influence. Like, how are you going to use that energy? Because you only have so much today, you know. And for me, I love to focus only on like the positive things, and things that like are constantly just poking you and nagging you, and you know, a real problem. Are they things that you need to address, or are they things that, you know, maybe you can shed? But for the most part, like, you've got to collect people. You have to collect them, otherwise you're never going to grow. You know, you've got to be open to these new relationships too.
One of the things that I've noticed about G&A is you don't have a high turnover over there.
No.
You've got a couple of guys that you depend on. What do you do to keep them there? What do you do to keep them vested in what you're doing?
So me personally, we have the mechanic that we have now is Jaden, myself, and then my father that's still tinkering with us. Basically, I won't hand him a job that I wouldn't do myself. So how I want to be treated, I'm going to treat him, and vice versa. So you just got to treat him with respect. And you know, he's a BMW guy, loves BMW. So I mean, you just bounce ideas off each other. But you know, being in the military, I treated people the way they wanted to be treated. As long as you treat them good and with respect, they're gonna stick around.
So it's beyond the pay. It's the actual making them feel
Make
like
them
they're
feel
part
like
of the process.
right. Exactly.
So now that's a great point. You just said that you would never give him a job that you wouldn't do yourself. I feel like a lot of bosses don't think that way. They think of their employees as subservience, do this job because it's below my level.
So, in our shop, I still turn wrenches. I do the office work, and, I turn wrenches.
So you do the parts ordering, the service advice, so you take the appointments, you order the parts, you sell the jobs, you monitor that progress, and you're also in the shop.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And the books, and you know what I mean?
So I do have a bookkeeper that does come in and goes through everything.
Okay.
And make sure I don't step on myself.
Yeah.
So screw myself over somehow.
Right.
But yeah, if I won't do the job, I'm not going to take it on. I'm not going to just pawn it off to him. If I won't do it, it's what it is.
So take us back to 2005 when you opened the shop.
Mm-hmm.
How anxious were you at that very moment when you first opened the door up that day?
I don't know if it was anxious or just scared and nervous, because it's something that you just don't know what's going to happen. You're either going to succeed or you're just going to fail at that point, right? My father knew the Mercedes, so we decided, I had a Ford background at that point, and I'm like, well, what are we working on? He goes, well, this is what I know. I'm like, all right, so we went that avenue. He went out, he bought the tools and stuff for Mercedes, and that's how we started. Then slowly but surely, Mercedes, BMW, we just stuck with the Euro stuff.
Yeah.
But it was nerve-wracking. It's a whole new chapter in life. I had just gotten out of the military, knew nothing about civilian life at that point. You don't have that structured regimen every day. So it's like, okay, it's somewhat, regimented, but at that point, you really don't have that many customers and stuff like that. So you're trying to get customers to come in and stuff.
So at what point were you like, okay, we've got this? How long did it take you?
Probably about a year in, we knew, we had customers that found out. Everybody in the area knew my father that had Mercedes and everything. So slowly but surely they started finding out, because Lubar Imports went under. So now, they basically found my father because they knew who he was. He was, the guy everybody talked to at the dealership. So that's how they found us, and then it's been mainly all word of mouth for us as far as business.
So what are some challenges that maybe you guys have had to face through the years that you've been able to overcome? Obviously, big hurdles as you grow, things that were probably laughable then were probably huge. Tell us about some of those.
A lot of it, being a two-man operation, you start getting overwhelmed with, now all of a sudden, at that point, we didn't know what we could do on a daily basis, like cars and stuff. So basically it was time management for us. Trying to get a car in and then out, and then you're stuck with, big jobs, and then you start getting backlogged, and now trying to get caught up was the biggest issue.
It's tough to meet expectations too, right? You want to help everybody,
Yep.
and sometimes you have to say no to jobs, but unfortunately.
And not knowing, people knew him, but not knowing anybody else in the business at that point. Trying to set up accounts with dealerships and parts stores, and trying to figure that aspect out was tough.
Mm-hmm. And so how'd you bridge that gap? Like, how do you, how'd you do it?
Build relationships with the dealerships. Like, we have a great relationship with most of the dealerships that we work with. Mercedes, BMW, most of them know us. And then, it's a trust factor. Like, you start off with, we're ordering parts and you're paying them every time they come in, to now you're going maybe weekly for payments that they're trusting you to do that. And then, slowly but surely you build up to like monthly or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's just a trust, knowing that they're going to send you all these parts and they're going to get paid for it.
We pay our parts at all of my auto repair shops. We pay our parts weekly.
That's what we do now. Yep.
And I know, sometimes when you talk to people, they're like, that's crazy, why would you do that? One, we're fortunate we don't need the cash flow, and two, I think it's very easy to track a week than it is a month. And so, it's just part of our process that we track parts daily, and, and then weekly we pay them, but on Fridays we pay vendors. And so here's the reason. So we want to, parts are difficult to come by. You know, and so we always try to create like a partnership or somewhat of an alliance with certain part vendors, you know, and I know that you guys have done that because the way that I met you was that we had called Westboro Mercedes, I believe, out near Boston, and we needed something, and they were like, we don't have it, but call these guys in East Long Meadow. I'm like, they're not a dealer. They were like, they'll have it, and I called you, and you had it, and that was the first time that I had met you, you know. And so we try to create these relationships, these partnerships with a parts vendor, and basically what I'll say is, look, I want a certain, you know, a few things, right? I don't want to stock parts because I don't want to lay out my money to stock all these parts. And in our area, we're fortunate that we don't have to. There's part houses everywhere, you know, as long as you have some, you know, we have a lot of good ones around. And so one of the things that I'll do is I'll reach out to them and I'll say, hey, Pat, you know, we love seeing you in here. You know, you do a great job. We love your parts. Everything's great. And one of the things that I need from you is I want to make your first call, right? And so, you know, some shops are still calling people. Other shops have computer software that will look up parts from, you know, 8, 9, 10 vendors all at once, just the click of a button. You know, and so first call in that respect would just mean that they're the first vendor that shows up on the screen. Inherently, you know, whoever's looking up the parts is always going to see that first screen. They're going to order from them more. And so we'll say, okay, Pat, you know, I love your parts, whatever. I want to make your first call, but these are the things that I need from you. One, I need to be first on, first off the truck all the time. Unfortunately, I don't care if you're going to Alfonze. I need you to come to me first.
Right.
You know what I mean? I need you to come to me first all the time. The second thing that I need is I don't want to worry about my returns, right? If a part is warranted for 24 months and it's 28 months, I'm not trying to hear it. You know, I want you to take it back, right? And then the last thing is obviously I want to make sure that I get proper pricing, right? And so what I'm going to do for you in return is obviously I'm going to make your first call, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pay you weekly. And so a lot of these parts stores, they get paid based on how much money they have out. Right, they need to sell a lot, but then they need to collect that money, and then these store owners get bonused on that. And so since we know that, we create a plan internally to make sure that they get what they want too. And so, you know, we're going to pay you weekly, so you're not going to have to hold a note on this thing. And you know, these are the things that we need from you, and we're going to give you a good volume. And so what we end up doing then is we put things on a credit card weekly, and then we pay off the credit card weekly. And so then we get the points back that we can use towards equipment, we can use towards company outings, we can use towards all that stuff. And you know, it never costs us a penny to do that. And on top of it, because we're paying every week, we're paid off by the 5th, right? So it does a couple things. One, because we're paid off by the 5th, we save 5% every single month on our parts bill, so that lowers our costs. And then because they know that they're going to get paid and they're not having to hold the note on it, so to speak, we get better pricing right out of the gate, you know, and we get this preferential treatment, and you know, we get all of these things that we need. So it really benefits us. But you know, you see some guys and they don't have the ability to have the credit, you know, and fortunately for you know, people like us, we found a way to, one, not necessarily need it, but use it to our advantage that we don't need it, and you know, we're able to pay them a little bit sooner, and it really creates a better situation. Because especially, you know, we were talking earlier about how, you know, getting parts in general is very challenging now for many reasons. You know, a staff shortage, these supply houses can't get them, the big distribution warehouses can't get people, and then obviously the factories that are making the parts have shortages, and then you have strikes and all of these things going on. Like, how is that affecting your business?
So we try to stock as much as I can. Our main line is the Mercedes line, so I try to stock every single filter that every model will bring and all that stuff. So we try to stock them up every week. But as far as, you know, getting parts readily available now, it's hard. Try to get brake pads or anything, you know, like certain lines, there's 3 different size brake pads, rotors or whatnot. So you're measuring rotors. You call up the vendor and they're like, yeah, they're coming out of Florida. It's going to be 3-4 days. If you had this size rotor, we have them available. So even themselves, they're not stocking locally what everybody has.
So how do you so do your customers, how do you find your customers react to that when you say, hey, Pat, your brakes are grinding, you brought it in,
I know
you
exactly.
think it's going to be a layup?
I know how that ends.
Yeah.
I know how that ends. But there's
It's
got to
gonna be
be
3 days for your brake job.
there's got to be some level of the people understanding that your hands are tied in that respect.
A lot of them do, and they're great customers. But you know, some of them are just. I try to, especially if it comes for brakes or something, and someone's like, "Well, they call you up and like my brake light's up." I'm like, "Okay, can you swing in if they're local or anything? Can you swing in this afternoon or tomorrow, whatever's convenient for you? Swing in that way. I can see what you need, and we can actually pre-order it. That way, it's in, and I'm not waiting for it. So that way, when they make their appointment, the parts are already in the building. That way, I can get to the car, and then they get the car the same day."
I want to continue this conversation because I know for a fact that sometimes when you order a part and you have to wait days, sometimes that part doesn't come in like you expected it.
Yes.
We're going to talk more about this. Thanks for listening to the Boys Under the Hood podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Lotus Business Solutions, which really from the ground up, it includes Lotus Media, it includes Lotus Financial. Whether you're looking for a way to begin new systems within your business to make it more profitable, whether you're looking for strategies to keep employees that kick ass and maybe a strategy to lose the ones that don't. Lotus Media, if you want to get the word out to the world, we're here for you. And finally, Lotus Financial, you shouldn't be doing your own books. Pay somebody to do that. Do what you do, let someone else deal with the financial part of it. We'll be back with more Boys Under the Hood. Thanks for taking us along today.